In today's video, I'll be revealing 3 overlooked retirement risks that must be dealt with during the 12-month window immediately before you retire. Over my years working with hundreds of pre-retirees, I've identified this final year as the most consequential planning period, where specific actions taken or missed can dramatically impact your retirement security for the rest of your life. And that's exactly why I'm making today's video, to explain these 3 overlooked retirement risks and to show you how to manage them to ensure your financial security in your retirement. A client was talking with me in preparation for their upcoming retirement, and they said something like, "Eric, this period really does feel like a 12-month retirement runway." They said, "I feel like this is really the most critical period to get right because things move from theoretical to practical." They said, "I have to start thinking about my decisions in a totally different way than I ever have, even though my life really hasn't changed and really won't change for another 9 months or so because I'm still working." Now, they were saying this because the 12-month retirement runway is your opportunity to set yourself up to avoid 3 major retirement risks. And if you can avoid these 3 major risks that I'm going to share with you in just a couple minutes, then you end up with hundreds or thousands of dollars more of spendable money each year in retirement, but also a more secure retirement overall. And so you're also going to want to stick around for the end of this video because I'm going to provide a 3-step solution to these 3 retirement risks. Now, unfortunately, most people handle the 12-month retirement runway all wrong. They either start retirement planning way too far in advance and they end up triggering some or all of the 3 retirement risks that I'm going to go over with you because they have out-of-date plans when it comes time to deal with those risks. Or they start retirement planning way too late, when their backs are against the wall and they're forced to make suboptimal, rushed decisions that also ultimately trigger the 3 retirement risks. So what are those retirement risks that I've been talking about? Well, the first major retirement risk is the risk of making what I call a procedural mistake. See, everyone is talking about severe sequence of returns risk, which is actually quite uncommon and short-lived, or they're talking about inflation risk, which is mostly outside of our control, when what we should be talking about is the far more likely risk, which is the risk of making procedural mistakes. Procedural mistakes, put simply, are just doing something incorrectly that has a costly financial result. And these things happen all the time, right? And they don't get talked about. Procedural mistakes are by far the most common risk amongst retirees, and they can cause tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to someone's retirement. Just last week, I was speaking to a client whose parent had not updated their beneficiary forms on a multi-million-dollar retirement account. When the parent passed away, the account transferred to the parent's new spouse, despite the fact that this parent had wanted and communicated that they intended those accounts to pass to their children. Now, the simple act of not updating a beneficiary form caused a multi-million-dollar financial and personal rift within this client's family. Another very common procedural mistake that we see pre-retirees make is contributing to Roth employer accounts the year before retirement when they're in a high income year. Retirees who feel like they quote unquote should have more Roth money accumulated by this point in their life frequently do this type of thing, even though in most circumstances it's a tax mistake. But they feel like they need to make up for lost time, and then they rush to make this type of change. And finally, a third common procedural mistake is performing an indirect rollover transfer but not meeting the 60-day window to match the withholdings and results in a huge surprise tax bill. Now, the point isn't about each of these specific mistakes. The point here is that we often spend our time preparing for the huge, potentially catastrophic event, like a major market downturn or runaway inflation, and we should prepare for those things, but we don't prepare ourselves for the far more likely and far more common procedural mistakes that actually really hurt many more retirements. So now that you understand how some of those procedural mistakes can really derail your retirement, if you'd like to, you can click the first link in the description below to watch another free video I made where I'll show you exactly how to optimize your financial strategy during this critical 12-month window before retirement. Okay, so the second major retirement risk we're going to go over today is the risk of missed opportunities. Now, we've all heard the saying, you don't know what you don't know, and it couldn't be truer in this circumstance. For better or worse, the world of retirement planning is complex. Needlessly complex if you ask me, but the reality is that the government has created a labyrinth of rules and exceptions to those rules that can make even the most experienced retirement planner crazy. Now, One day, a pre-retiree can be triggering a wash sale rule, and another day, that same pre-retiree can be extracting tax-free money by tax lot selling their stock. Now, neither of those things may ring a bell with you, but wash sales are an example of an easy mistake to make unknowingly. You may never have heard of it, but you're still highly likely to make a mistake with that at some point. And tax lot selling is an easy opportunity to take advantage of that many pre-retirees, including many of yourselves, can go through your whole life and never have heard of it. Taking advantage of financial opportunities that can result in an earlier retirement or in more spending money in retirement requires three things. First, you need to know the opportunity exists. Second, you need to know how to prepare for the opportunity. And third, you need to know how to execute on the opportunity. So financial opportunities like tax lot selling, tax loss harvesting, ACA subsidies, and qualified charitable distributions are all great vehicles that can dramatically improve the financial stability of your retirement. But if you don't know that they exist, you can't even move to item 2 or 3 on that short checklist that I just mentioned. All right, the third risk that we're going to go over today in today's video is the risk of your time. And this sounds cliche because it is cliche, but the truth is time is your most valuable asset and it's the only thing you can never get back. Retirement presents this unique blend of risks to your time, right? Simply put, retirement is one of those periods where you can lose both time and money in a very consequential manner and you can't get it back. For example, a client was telling us a story about a family member of theirs who we did not work with at the time. That family member spent tens of hours in retirement planning software coming up with a very detailed Roth conversion strategy. They performed the Roth conversions called for in the first year of their strategy, only to find out that at the end of the year, it ended up costing tens of thousands more in taxes because they had miscalculated what bracket they would be in, right? They had not known that capital gains income affects their adjusted gross income. They'd thought that because they stayed under the capital gains income threshold on their tax table, that they would therefore be in a lower tax bracket. And that lack of understanding ended up costing them both many hours of their time, but also very valuable portfolio dollars. The problem this person faced was they were acting as a subject matter expert or a position player for their retirement when they should have been acting as the CEO of their retirement. And what I mean by that is because retirees only get one shot at retirement, one shot at avoiding mistakes without do-overs, one shot at taking advantage of opportunities, and one shot to use their time, they should not be trying to use their one shot to become a subject matter expert in extremely nuanced and financially sensitive topics like Roth conversions or tax bracket management or investment wash sale rules. Highly successful aspirational coaches and entrepreneurs understand this issue intuitively, right? When Warren Buffett buys a business and needs to solve, whatever problem at his new company, he doesn't become a subject matter expert on that problem. Warren Buffett knows that becoming a subject matter expert might take thousands of hours and many, many costly mistakes. He also knows that with far fewer well-applied hours, he can become an expert at choosing the right subject matter expert, which is a far better use of his time. Time really is money, right? And how we use our time ultimately determines how effectively our money can work for us. Okay, so what is the solution to these 3 retirement risks that rear their head, particularly during the 12-month retirement runway when you're making all these consequential decisions and taking all these consequential actions? At a high level, the solution is to invest financially in your education during the 12-month retirement runway, right? Even if you have to choose between contributing to your investment accounts or doing this investment into your education in order to do so, the value add of learning how to avoid mistakes, take advantage of opportunities, and reclaim your time versus, let's say, $8,000 of investment money compounding at 5% for the next 25 years, it's incomparable. The education that you should invest in this case, should cover 3 primary components. The first component would be feasibility testing your retirement. And feasibility testing can be done in a bunch of ways, but it's the process of testing the earliest possible retirement age at which you could safely support your desired level of spending, including taxes, in retirement. Now, at Peak Financial Planning, we favor the risk-based guardrails approach using income labs in order to do this, but there's a lot of ways to do it. And if you want to see a video in which I do this live in real time on screen in income labs, then just subscribe to the channel because I'll be releasing that video in just a couple weeks. The second component of this process would be acquiring an understanding of the exact circumstances that would require a downward spending adjustment in order to bring your financial plan to safety. Financial plans are not static, right? Just because you get a probability of success of 88% or whatever the number is on day one of retirement, it doesn't mean you can close your eyes and make zero changes over the course of your retirement. So acquiring an understanding of the circumstances that would require spending adjustments, the likelihood of those circumstances occurring, but also the magnitude of the spending adjustments you would need to make will help you manage emotions when conditions get stressful, as they will at some point in your retirement. And the third and final component of the education should be acquiring a true understanding of the level of procedural knowledge and experience that it would require to make good decisions for the rest of your retirement. The data inputs into financial planning software need to be executed. And one of the best investments you can make is into learning who the best person would be to execute the individual components of the plan would be, and where appropriate, how you can execute those inputs. An investment into education of this type will pay dividends every month, every year of your retirement. It will reduce risk, it will increase your spending flexibility, and ultimately, it will help you craft the retirement experience that you've always hoped for. So now that you understand the 3 critical retirement risks to manage, during the 12-month retirement runway, you can use this information to create your own personalized retirement plan and maximize your retirement readiness. But if you want to learn exactly how to implement all of this for your specific situation, just click the link in the description below to watch another short video of mine. I'll walk you through a step-by-step implementation framework and show you how to fully optimize your retirement plan. Thank you as always for your time and attention. See you in the next video.